Richard Cranston here again after the Chancellor's update on the furloughing scheme at the end of last week. It seemed a good time to provide an update on where the scheme seems to be going at the moment. The first thing to say is that the Chancellor seems adamant that the scheme will end at the end of October, and that would seem to suggest that the government's aim is to have the economy fully up and running by then. In fact, when pushed whether he would reintroduce the scheme in the event of a second phase, there seemed to be some reluctance. This is potentially the most worrying aspect because on one hand we have scientists suggesting that a second phase is almost inevitable, even if it is later in the year, whereas the Treasury don't seem to be planning for one. On that basis, I'm sure this third video on furloughing won't be the last. It's always a balancing act as to when to release a video after an announcement. Today I will cover the main headlines within the announcement, but over the coming weeks the Treasury will release all the detail that follows on from the headlines, and sometimes those details can change the thrust of the headlines. The reason for publishing the video so soon after the announcement is that there was an important part relating to new entrants to the scheme. The scheme will close to new entrants from the 30th of June, but as the scheme dictates that employees have to be furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks, you will need to furlough them by the 10th of June, i.e. in 10 days' time. I suspect most employers that were going to use the scheme have already furloughed their staff, but if, for example, you had a contract to finish and hence had all your staff working over the last 2 months, you may want to look at your order book for the next 3 to 4 months to see if you need all of those staff for that period. If not, get them furloughed in the next week or so, and then after 3 weeks you will have flexibility on how often you will need them. So what we now know is that the scheme in its current form will continue until the end of June. In essence, an employer can recover 80% of an employee's salary up to the maximum of £2,500 plus all the associated employer's costs on that amount. However, the furloughed employee can do no work whilst furloughed. From July, an employer will be able to bring back furloughed staff part-time, and this is obviously designed to assist those employers that are allowed to start reopening in June, and those that it is anticipated will be allowed to reopen in July, which will mainly be the hospitality industry and close contact industries such as hairdressers. At the moment, no one has an idea how demand will go, and hence staffing levels will be difficult to forecast, and therefore this flexibility will be welcome. A common theme during my videos has been the need for detailed record keeping, and this is further highlighted by the fact that we already know that when submitting a claim in July for an employee brought back part-time, HMRC will need to know the usual working hours of that employee and the number they actually worked in the period to substantiate the claim. This is a new level of detail required, and it is therefore well worth getting a recording method in place from the very start. Till the end of August, the employer will be able to continue to claim 80% of an employee's salary for the period they do not work, plus all the associated payroll costs, as is the case now. And obviously, if there is not enough work for an employee to return at all, they can remain fully furloughed and the scheme as it is now. For employees that do return to work, they must be paid in full for the hours they do work, but there is no minimum time you can furlough staff. Therefore, if you need an employee for 4 days a week instead of 5, you can furlough them for that 5th day. My expectation is that bringing back staff part-time will be classed as a change in their working conditions and will therefore need to be agreed with them in writing. At the moment, the suggestion is that the new working arrangement will need to cover at least a week. So, in summary, assuming the employer is only paying furloughed staff 80% of their normal pay, the government will continue to pick up the full cost of unworked hours for those furloughed workers until the end of August, and the employer will only pay for the hours actually worked in the business. From August, employers are then being asked to pick up more of the costs going forward. The first change is that for August, the employer will not be reimbursed for the employer's NI or employer's pension contributions on furloughed pay. HMRC estimate that this is about 5% of the normal payroll cost, but this will be totally dependent on the salary or pay rates of the people furloughed. Obviously, if you have a rolling time to pay agreement in place for your PAYE/NI contributions, or are making one for each month, the immediate cash flow effect will only be the pension contributions. What is obvious is that the need for more detailed cost forecasting going forward is more important than ever, and we will be consulting with our clients over the coming weeks to build these changes into their forecasts even if it is only their short-term cash flow costs. From September, the government will only reimburse 70% of the salary cost instead of 80%, so the employer will be asked to pick up the 10% cost plus all the associated employer's payroll costs. The maximum £2,500 will be also reduced to £2,187.50 in line with the reduction. What is not clear is whether, with the employee's agreement, an employer will be entitled to pay the employee 70% of their salary and hence reclaim the full amount. We will keep an eye out for that in the small print. Lastly, in October, the final month of the scheme, the amount will drop from 70% to 60%. Therefore, you can see that the requirement for detailed record keeping and backup to those claims has gone up one notch, and the need for detailed cost forecasts for July, August, September and October, taking into account all these changes, is paramount to ensure that the effect on profits, and probably more importantly cash at this time, is understood. Keep an eye out for my updates as the small print is rolled out over the coming days and weeks. If the unwinding of the lockdown goes to plan, this may be the last video on furloughing, but I have a funny feeling I may be back. Thanks for watching, and if you need any advice or assistance with forecasts and claims, our contact details are below this video or on our website.